It's just gonna be one of those days, isn't it? It's just gonna be one of those days. I went to sleep getting a little frustrated. Honestly, really, really frustrated by this continued misinformation that I just can't stand it. I've made videos on this before, and obviously it doesn't seem like everybody really wants to take it to heart. But I have to say, I am enjoying that there's a little bit of a pushback happening now with misinformation around the anime sphere. This ongoing debate that, oh my gosh, Crunchyroll is censoring my anime. Crunchyroll is evil. I'm all for that. Honestly, I'm all for people staying diligent when it comes to censorship of anime. And whenever Crunchyroll or Sony or Funimation or High Dive, any of these companies, if they start censoring our anime, get on them. The problem is, it's the boy who cried wolf aspect. Make sure that when you do call them out, you're calling them out for legit information, not misinformation. Because when it finally comes that they're actually doing something wrong, we're not going to be able to cry wolf. The wolf's going to eat us. But no, for those that are unaware, yesterday, as the recording of this video, Onimai officially broadcasts on Crunchyroll and other platforms around the world. And quickly, what people started talking about was that, wait, there's something different about this episode of Onimai. There's scenes that are completely cut out. And yes, certain people immediately go online, Twitter, MyAnimeList, YouTube, and start crying, Crunchyroll is censoring anime again. How terrible. Now, put aside your issues with Onimai if you think it should be censored or not. There's a lot of people that are like, you know what, look, I don't want to see that anyways. I would argue that if you're okay with what they censored and then still okay with what they didn't censor, something's wrong, because I would argue what they didn't censor was far worse than what they censored. That's what doesn't make any sense. What was cut was way more tame than what they actually left in. The whole thing where he's holding up his finger and sliding away from his lower part, that was much more revealing than anything else they actually cut. But yes, Onimai had two specific scenes that were cut. One was a scene where he's trying on a bra, and another scene where he's just coming out of the bath and he walks towards his counter. Both scenes were cut. And what was replaced was pretty much just scenes of different shots of inside the house or in this one shop. Immediately, my argument was this is probably going to be a Tokyo Revenger situation, where the studio itself has a Japanese version, and then they have a global version. That was my assumption right off the bat. That's what happened with Tokyo Revengers. Everybody screamed that Crunchyroll is censoring the show, and then what came out? The studio had to finally say something. And that's the troubling thing. Whenever we get censored anime over here, the immediate jump on, especially those that want to justify their pirating, is, oh, this is why I don't subscribe to Crunchyroll. They're censoring it, which is perfectly fine. If you want to pirate, I don't care. Let me be perfectly clear. I don't care that you pirate. I'm just saying it's funny that people always jump on that to justify why they're doing it. Just do it. A lot of people do it. I've done it for a long time. Doesn't matter. I think the thing that troubles me the most is when you have people with big followings saying it, because then it just kind of adds fuel to the flame. And it's something that I'm constantly having to see in my own comment sections and stuff where like, why aren't you mad? They censored this. Crunchyroll censored this. And it's always, I have to explain to them, no, they typically don't. We're not talking about 4Kids generation here. They broadcast what they're given. Typically with a lot of these contracts, that's what they're supposed to do. They can't alter it unless they actually go back to the company. And yes, I don't see Crunchyroll themselves physically changing something like Onimai because, again, you have assets that have to replace certain shots. Like when he first comes out of the bathtub, there's a shot of the bathtub. They would have to draw that. When it came to the bra scene, they would have to literally draw the inside of the store with his sister there, or the basket full of his clothes. They're not going to create those assets and inject them in. But still, I didn't want to say anything. I was like, okay, everybody's the typical misinformation. I could be wrong. It could be Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll could have told them specifically change this, and so they changed it for Crunchyroll. I don't know, and I'm not going to say one way or the other. I even looked around at a lot of these videos and stuff that are going, oh my gosh, Crunchyroll is censoring Onimai, and I'm looking in there looking for the proof. If you have proof, it's fine. I'll watch it. I'll check out the proof, and there's no proof. It's just I watched two versions and the one on Crunchyroll is censored, so they must have done it. So I put some fillers out. I asked a couple people, hey, do you have any information on this? Clear things up. Didn't get any responses, unfortunately, and I think that's for a reason. typically, like, Crunchyroll's not going to say anything, because if they say something, it puts heat on the studio. The studio's not going to say anything, because then it puts heat on themselves. The producers aren't going to say anything, because then it puts heat on them. A lot with anime, they don't like to say things most of the time. Tokyo Revengers was a very rare case where they said something, and it was like, thank you for clarifying this. Now everybody hates the studio, because the studio changed it for the global release. But still, at least it gives us somebody to throw sticks at. Thankfully, Onimai, we have one statement, and that was from a Taiwanese site. This Taiwanese site actually streamed this, and they clarified to everybody what's going on, so they knew it's not their fault. But yes, on Anime Gamer Facebook page, a Taiwanese site, they said, regarding the content of the imagery of, and this is like a very rough translation here, so bear with me, of Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister. After confirming with an agent, the sorting status is as follows. Essentially, the overseas version authorized by the Japanese side of things is a revised version. Only the normal version will broadcast in Japan. There's the key thing there. The only people that will have the uncensored version is Japan. Well, anybody also that's pirating, but let's be perfectly clear. Official broadcast. In Japan only will there be an uncensored version. This means that globally, everywhere else outside of Japan is going to get a censored version. And the other thing I heard a lot of people say was that Crunchyroll's version specifically had the audio of the visual novel he was playing removed. Again, not the case. The agents have actually assisted in obtaining the normal version, but the current authorization of a revised version is actually the Japanese side's consideration of overseas authorization. Again, it's them doing it. Japan has done this. Japan isn't like... I was talking on Discord yesterday, and somebody's talking about how it's always terrible about, I think it was Ida. It's always annoying that people just believe that Japan would never censor anything. It's like, no, they still have laws they have to follow. And again, that's the whole thing with Tokyo Revengers. They wanted to make a broadcast version that would go everywhere, and they didn't want to have to worry about the manji symbol, which again, I still really don't like that. I think that's terrible that they would basically ruin the manji symbol that way. It's not the other symbol. Both the image and audio file have been corrected. Key word there, the audio file. Again, it wasn't just Crunchyroll that had that audio removed. Again, both the image and audio files have been corrected to the normal version respectively. It was mentioned that the difference in the panting sounds may be a setting error, but in accordance with the Japanese authorization regulations, the overseas version of the audio file must be a corrected version. That is the non-panting version. Again, it was a visual novel in the show itself, and you can hear the moaning coming from it, and that was removed. This point is still being clarified by the agent. So they're kind of unknown. I think what this is essentially saying, what I'm guessing from this rough translation, is that essentially, yes, we know that there was this audio that was removed from it. We don't know if it was a setting or if it was something where the regulatory group said, no, we can't have that outside broadcast. They follow up with saying, I'm sorry for the trouble and confusion caused by this broadcast. Please understand that the above situation first. If there is any follow-up news, we will continue to make simultaneous announcements to inform users. So at least they're keeping people informed as they broadcast to. Again, I wish there was a day where High Dive and Crunchyroll and all these platforms would just tell us. And just tell us where the fault lies. All I can think of is that a lot of these companies just don't care to, again, throw shade at a particular person. And I understand that. If they're contracting to buy something from a company, they don't want to put shade there. They want to keep buying from them and just hope that everybody just shuts up. I mean, that's like the whole situation right now with Inukai's dog. High Dive could easily come out and say, that's the only version they would give us. The actual uncensored version isn't airing until way later. This is the only version available, and we want to get it to you. Be clear. Like, really just lay out what's going on. That way people know. It's not you censoring it. And I hate the fact that they have to do that. I really do believe that there's sometimes I just want them to put like a red bar under every single broadcast of everything that just goes to a generic link that says, look, we will get whatever version we can get. In a lot of cases, these are pretty much exclusive to platforms. So people know, essentially a lot of these censored versions that have an uncensored version that broadcasts also, the Western streaming companies will only get the censored version. Why? Because Japan doesn't like people using VPNs to broadcast it in Japan. Because a lot of these platforms over here are super cheap. And if they can get the uncensored version by just getting a VPN and streaming it from America, they would do that. Japan doesn't want that. So a lot of these companies that are buying and putting money into these anime properties, just to exclusively broadcast it on their platform in Japan. They want people to go to them, no one else. So everybody else, globally and everywhere else, will not get the uncensored version. They will only get it until they release the Blu-ray, they sell the Blu-ray, and then they'll give it over to the West so they can sell it on their Blu-rays. They don't want you to watch it. Or specifically, they don't want Japanese audiences getting access to it. They want them to go to their platform. But the key point to this entire video, I'm getting in the weeds here. I mean, it all does require a full explanation, honestly, because I think a lot of people still don't get it. No matter how many times I've explained it, they still don't get it. And again, I think a lot of people will never get it. And yes, I fully acknowledge that a lot of people that are making tweets and, yes, posts on My Anime List and YouTube videos and wherever else they're posting stuff, they're getting it for clicks. I think a lot of these people full well know what they're doing. It's just easy clicks. And I'm going to do it for this video. I'm going to make a thumbnail that legit says, probably put in air quotes so that people know that it's not me saying it, Crunchyroll is censoring Onimai. It's easy clicks. Misinformation is such easy clicks. And just let the comments go at it. Who cares? I was misinformed, that's all. That's the troubling thing. Because again, it then leads to me having to explain it to other people. Tons of comments, tons of DMs, tweets, and everything that I have to explain to these people, no, look, it's not. Why aren't you covering this? Crunchyroll's censoring it. No, they're not. Again, they could be. Crunchyroll could have told the producers of Onimai, hey, look, censor it. And then they censored it and just did one censored version that broadcasts everywhere and single there. There's possibly going to become a time when that happens. But for now, until it's actually shown, until you have evidence and not just, I watched 2 versions, thus proof, err on the side of, until it's stated, don't leap. Because again, the Boy Who Cried Wolf thing. Either way, Onimai is a fantastic show. I'm absolutely loving it, so make sure to check out my video, my first impressions of it. I think it's fantastic. I know that some people are going to be a little bit about it because it gets risque, but I think it's super cute, and I love that little underlying story in there. Anyways, I just want to get on here, sip my coffee, and talk about this just to clarify something for some people. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what's thought of this whole situation. Additionally, if you're new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button to check out my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. And yes, when I cover news, I try to make sure I have sources, which is, I know, shocking to some people. Additionally, if you like my content and you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. Keep me around, right? Well, that's a bad shield. Thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.